Welcome to today's She Renovates Holiday Replay. In episode 161, I chatted with Lucy about why your own home is the perfect place to start renovating. This one has been a super popular and it's one of the must listens for new renovators. Let's go. She Renovates podcast is sponsored by the School of Renovating's Wonder Women Renovators program. It is the ultimate mastermind for entrepreneurial women ready to turn their passion for renovating into a six-figure income. In 2024, we're on a mission to generate $4 million in profit collectively, and we're taking 40 incredible women with us to their first $100,000 renovation profit. How we'll do that is initially through a power planning session to map out your personal pathway to success. We will then follow up with 8 weeks of intensive training to get you up to speed with our signature 100K renovation process. We'll then follow up with weekly project meetings to keep you on track, to support you with direct coaching and also with peer support. You'll have access to exclusive tools, resources, and personal coaching. And then once a quarter, you'll meet for a boardroom where we'll sharpen your axe. This isn't just a program, it's a life-changing opportunity to build wealth, gain confidence, and create the future you deserve. If you're ready to be one of the 40 women making $100,000 in profit in 2024, don't wait. Visit www.theschoolofrenovating.com/wonder-women, that's plural, to explore whether this program might be suitable for you. Let's renovate your future and make your first 100K a reality.
Renovating your own home is an awesome way to start because it's safe and you can take your time with it, you can learn, and there's not that panic that comes with things going wrong that there is when you're renovating professionally. So I think if you're considering renovating, starting with your home is the perfect place.
You're listening to the She Renovates podcast. You're listening to She Renovates, the podcast for women who want to renovate to create an income and a life they love.
Hello, everyone. So today I am recording our podcast episode. We're actually live streaming the recording of our podcast episode just for something new and different. And it's been a very exciting day so far because I actually put the wrong time into the announcement. So got poor old Lucy really going there. But yeah, we're all set to go. And so what I want to do is introduce you to Lucy and then we'll get into it. So Lucy is a mother of 3 beautiful children, and you haven't mentioned that you're a wife of one beautiful man, Lucy.
And 2 fur babies.
And 2 fur babies, there you go. And she works from home as a remedial therapist. Lucy is one of our Wonder Women and has recently sold her family home in order to rent-vest and use the capital to build a property portfolio and pursue her dream of renovating professionally. Lucy has purchased a property in Kyneton and is in the process of doing a micro development on that, but she's also done a few other projects as well. Now, Lucy is what we call a rising star, and the reason being that some people, you just get the sense that they are destined for greatness. They're determined to get a result. And I certainly really picked that in Lucy very early on. She's just someone who decides what she wants and she goes after it, which is really, really exciting to see. And as a result, has achieved a lot in a reasonably short amount of time. And so what I'm going to do is introduce you to Lucy now. And Lucy, Can you just give everyone a little bit of an idea of who you are and
Sure. Yeah,
in
absolutely.
life? Yeah.
Firstly, thanks for having me back and thanks for the introduction. It's always validating when one of your mentors sees nice or potential in you. So that's really exciting. Anyway, as you said, I've got a young family and I have been a remedial therapist for about 19 years. So started in that career and kind of started on this journey of renovating by accident. And it's a common story. You buy your family home, renovate it and fall in love with renovating and then just see where you can take it from that point. And I guess that's how my journey began and how I fell in love with renovating.
So that home when we first met was in
Blackburn.
Golly me, let me think. Blackburn,
Yep.
Yeah. And you basically made a lot of changes to that home, and we've talked about that in
previous podcasts.
Yeah. And I think renovating your family home is something that most people do, and it's like we have so much money tied up in our family home, which I think is what started you thinking about what you're doing now. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's definitely, I think renovating your own home is an awesome way to start because it's safe and you can take your time with it. You can learn and there's not that panic that comes with things going wrong that there is when you're renovating professionally. So I think if you're considering renovating, starting with your home is the perfect place. And that's how it was for me. So I made pretty much all of the mistakes I was going to make in that home. And hopefully it's all the mistakes it's going to make.
You want to name any of them?
I just was so green because my attitude going into that property was I'm going to live here forever, so I'm going to have the best of everything. And, I just want it to look pretty and I don't care what it costs. So I just not overcapitalized. I still made money on that place, but it's not money that I would have made without capital growth. It was mostly capital growth that made money on it. So it was a good experience. And I think that was kind of my apprenticeship doing that house. So I fell in love with it.
I think when we first met, you were going to spend a whole lot more money on it.
Probably.
Your plan,
but then you talked me out of it. So it saved me a whole lot of cash, so I was grateful for that.
Yeah. So what do you think it is that really, I guess, has generated your interest in renovating? What is it that
it's a creative outlet. So I really find that it's a way of it. It's like a canvas. You can just express yourself through it. And that's where it becomes so satisfying when you can turn something, especially for me, I love saving houses that are going to be demolished. So finding those houses that have really good bones and then saving them from being sent to a junk site, and then it gives it a new life, another 100 years or whatever. And that is so satisfying that you can just I'm all about sustainability. So kind of help do your part in preventing waste. And that's what I love about renovating. So when we bought our family house, the agent actually listed it and advertised it as a demo home. But we saw a lot of potential in it. The bones were really good. And so we saved that house and turned it into something really beautiful and managed to give it at least 100 more years of life, hopefully, if we did a good job.
And so in terms of the creative aspect of it, do you find, like, obviously, because when you're renovating for profit, the budget is always a top priority. Do you find that limiting? Does that dampen your enthusiasm in terms of the creativity?
I think you've just got to work around the problem. So you've just got to increase your creativity, find ways to resolve a problem. So we had this problem today, we were dealing with, and we'll get into this later, I'm sure. But dealing with where to put a hot water system in a small 1-bedroom apartment. And it was without spending a fortune in getting a new one installed or putting pipes all the way around the place. So we had serious issues with configuring that, but we had to get creative and not just take the easy route and just buy a whole new system. So you do need brains behind you and people who have been there as well. So, that you've just got to get creative. That's where it helps if you've got that community there. So I reckon I struggle a little bit with that, with being that little bit creative sometimes, because I always want to use bright colours and stuff that I like, and that's where I want to be creative. but I've also got to then factor in, who's my market and what am I appealing to, and then tie down the reins and try to keep myself under control. So yes, you can be creative, but to a limit.
The alternative is if you want to get out there, get wild with it, you really need to be working on Airbnb properties.
Yep.
Airbnb,
absolutely.
you can be, a bit left field, but
that's it.
It's funny because I always think that I actually enjoy the challenge of delivering, we call it Prosecco on a champagne on a Prosecco budget.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it comes from feeding family on a tight budget. Yes. I always get a lot of satisfaction out of being able to.
Absolutely. But you're so good at it. You do it so well. Like you've done it so many times that it just comes naturally to you. I still feel like I've got my skates on.
I think you're coming along very nicely.
Well,
Lucy.
It's with the help of all you guys, so it makes a difference.
Oh, what would you see? What has been your biggest hurdle to getting into renovating?
Hurdle?
I'm trying to ask questions that people that are listening who are not necessarily active.
So I reckon I was looking at the questions earlier and I was thinking about that. And the biggest hurdle for me is definitely finance. And I think that's what majority of people will relate to, is that getting finance and being able to fund your project, especially if you've got your own home, can be the biggest challenge in getting started. And it certainly was the challenge for me when I fell in love with renovating my family home and wanted to progress but had no means to be able to do so. So it came to a point for us where we just went, well, we've just got to sell our house. And that was the way that we could do it. And fortunately, I have a very supportive husband who was happy to go along with that idea.
Yeah. But you've not just sold that to do flips. You've actually invested in I would think that's, you've invested in something that's got long-term growth potential. You've got the best of both
Absolutely,
worlds.
Yeah. So really, with the sale of the house, as you mentioned earlier, what we've been able to do is purchase a micro-development site in regional Victoria. It's really only an hour out of town, so it's not that far, but it was within budget, like a really good price, but we're able to get 2 blocks out of that. We're not going to keep both of them, so we'll keep one of them, but we've renovated it as it was an absolute dump, but we've renovated it. And we're currently in the process of subdividing it. So plans are with council at the moment. So hopefully it'll make some good money. It's already appreciated about 10%.
Beautiful. And have you had the renovation valued?
To that 10%? So on its own, on its own, it's appreciated 10% plus the reno.
Awesome. Yeah, but have you actually had the property valued since you renovated it?
No, not yet. I'm waiting till the landscaping's done before I'm doing that.
Oh, good thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you bought Kyneton, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, go for it.
I haven't said it. With the view to micro development. And I think that's really smart for a couple of reasons, because I think that straight flipping is quite high risk. And I always see that additional land component is a sort of an insurance policy. So that, like, particularly now that interest rates are going up, the cost of the land is actually then spread over 2 properties rather than just the one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which makes it quite a good investment. So when you get that subdivided, you'll build on the back. Is that correct?
We'll build on the back and we'll sell the front.
Yeah. And
we're currently holding the front for a year to halve the capital gains tax on it, and then we'll build in the back. And also can't do anything until the subdivision comes through anyway. So who knows how long that takes. But in the meantime, it's going to be on Airbnb.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So did you specifically renovate it for Airbnb?
Yeah, I did. And it's all furnished and everything ready to go. I don't actually know at this stage whether we will sell one of them. I'm pretty confident that we will, just to free up some equity for another project. But when that happens, I'm not sure at this stage. We'll just have to wait and see how Airbnb goes.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, the beauty of the micro-development strategy is that your renovation really helps to reduce the cost of your land. So you'll basically end up with a new investment property that is very you've got high equity in it, because basically what you do is you renovate the original house and sell, and that money goes back into the project or wherever if you go to get another one, and you've got a nice new property with high depreciation and presumably very low maintenance to move on with. So, yeah.
Yeah,
In fact,
one point to add to that, though, is that when you're building the new house in the back, you need to have the foresight to be able to hold it, or the ability to hold it for around 5 years, so that you avoid the GST on the house at the back.
Yes, I completely agree. And as we speak, I'm bidding on a micro development project today.
Yeah.
So
is that one of the regional ones?
Yeah, it is. So
awesome. Let us know how you go. Fingers crossed.
Yep. Yeah, it's very exciting. First time I've done an online auction. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. So the auction's on a Thursday?
Yes. And so it's not like an auction and an auctioneer. It's completely digital. And once we get to the closing time, which is 5 o'clock, then anyone that puts a bid in after 5, it starts a 2-minute timer. And then if nobody bids in the next 2 minutes, that person's the winning bidder. And if they do, the timer starts again.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
Okay, so where am I up to? Do you enjoy renovating?
I absolutely love it. Just seeing the place come to life again and being able to salvage it and breathe new life into it is amazing. Like, it's such a satisfying feeling, as you know, just to see it become beautiful again and live up to its potential, I think is really satisfying. And also being able to show, I love to bring people through the houses when they're really ugly, like the uglier the better. Like my dad, am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah.
My dad comes through the house and he's just like, oh my gosh, what a shit box. And I'm like, yeah, it's totally disgusting. You don't even want to walk through it. And now he comes through it and just totally impressed. Like, it's a brand new house. It's beautiful. You would never know that it was such a shitbox. And that's amazing.
I had a similar thing with the class project. You remember I got my brother to bring up the insulation from Victoria for the roof.
Yep.
And he drove it up there and he didn't tell me at the time, but afterwards he said to me, when I saw that house, he said, I thought, oh my God, you've done it this time. Like, he said, so terrible. And then when it went to market, he said, I could not believe it.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, half the tradies that I have working on the Kyneton house are locals, and they go, oh, this was the party house. The police were called to this house all the time. This house was just trashed. And apparently the neighbours told me that the previous tenants there would be out the front drinking beers at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
Oh, my God.
And the whole shed was full of empty beer cans. It was disgusting. Like, I didn't even want to walk through it. But now, oh, my gosh, I love it. I could live there.
Awesome. Beautiful.
So that's the most satisfying thing about renovating.
And also
the before and afters.
And also the fact that it does place you in a better financial position.
Oh, well, that's a massive bonus as well. So, yeah, definitely.
Can you tell me, do you feel like you're in control of your financial future? Like, do you feel like you know what you need to do in order to get the outcome you want?
I'm getting there. I'm getting to that point. I don't feel like I'm in control yet because I don't have enough sales histories under my belt. Okay. So that's where I'm kind of lacking, and I feel like I'm good at the buying part. I just haven't sold much yet.
So what is it from that you need in order to feel like you're in control?
So what I want is a good track record. So at the moment I've got 2 sales under my belt, and that would be the PPOR, the family home.
Yeah.
And that did okay, not great, but that's because I totally overspent on that renovation. That was my learning experience. Yeah. The second property that we worked on, we made good profit on that. The beach house.
Okay, and that was in Rye?
Safety Beach.
Safety Beach, okay. Yeah. And so do you want to share what your profit was on that?
Sure. We bought for $700 in May 2020, and we sold we're in the process of selling it now for $915.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, and the reno budget on that didn't need too much, it just needed a freshen up, but we spent about $15,000 on that.
Okay, beautiful. Excellent.
Yeah, so in order to feel in control, I just want more track record. So I think I need about 5 sales that go well to feel like I'm in control and that I've got it down pat.
And some people would say they feel like they've got it down pat after 1 or 2.
Yeah, I feel like there's still a lot to learn because every different type of house that you do will have different challenges and different results. So I just want to cover.
I hate to be a bad news, but I've been doing this for 30 years and I'm still coming across things that I didn't.
Yep.
So
I don't think you ever stop learning in this.
No, you don't. And the thing is, you stop learning, you're dead. So we don't want that.
Yeah, exactly.
So now let's talk about the project that you are on at the moment. So you're currently doing a joint venture. So what's that?
So what happened was I am subdividing the house in Kyneton and I've put money aside for the build in the back. But I didn't want that money, that cash, to just sit there and offset that loan. I wanted to make it work while I'm waiting for those permits to come through. So what I've done is I have joined forces with a previous Wonder Woman, Christine Carey.
Yeah.
And she and I have just put the cash into the project and are now just testing the waters to see how we work together with an apartment in the inner burbs in Hawthorne. And we'll see how we go. So if that goes well, all the profit from that sale hopefully will stay within that company and the trust and then just turn over and we'll just keep that going. So I've got those little side gigs going in between my gigs, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so the thing about doing joint ventures is it's really building your confidence so that you can confidently go into something and manage a project knowing that you are not just managing your own money, you're managing someone else's as well. Yeah. And I guess generating that trust in someone else as well in your joint venture partner. Yeah. And that's also why it's really good to get a few runs on the board because it's much easier to come across joint venture deals when people know that you are competently doing sort of multiple projects. I think that's a smart move.
Yeah. And then you've got your track record behind you as well. So, yeah, that's been really beneficial. And so far we're working really well together. So grateful for that. Yeah.
Are you both on site?
No, because Christine's in Canberra, so she's not on site. But she does help me virtually, which is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so do you want to tell us about the project? What is it? And
it is a 1-bedroom 1950s, I think, 1950s brick clinker. It's on the ground level of a 3-level apartment block. So there are 16 in the block. It has not been touched since then. So very dated, very dark, just a very simple 40, 50 square 1-bedroom. So we noticed what was great about it is this was the first apartment we could find where there was evidence of recent sales histories of 2 other apartments within that complex. So one apartment sold in the same size, sold for $430, and it had been updated but not recently. So I'd say about a 15, 20-year reno. And the other apartment sold for $480, and that was renovated but not as good as we could do it.
Okay.
So with that, we could see that there was profit potential within that area, within the building. So it gave us enough confidence to be able to go, okay, well, we can see that we can make money on this one.
Yeah.
We're going to do something similar to what they've already done, but we're going to do it better because we can see where they went wrong in their apartment. So with that, we were able to negotiate a very good price with the agent. So we got it for $335, which is great. And we plan on selling it for, I'd say, between $430 to $450.
Beautiful. So you're being very conservative with your...
Yeah. Hopefully we get more than that, but it really just depends on what the market's doing because at the moment you just can't really rely on it that much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's exciting. So that's chugging along. And we're in the demo stage, so now it's all the problems are arising, but we'll resolve them.
Yeah. And then you can start putting it all back together. And so when do you anticipate you'll be ready for market?
I reckon 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, fortunately, I've got a bit of luck finding trades, so that's been quite easy to find good trades. So everything's solvable, which is great. Well,
Beautiful.
everything's solvable with the right amount of cash, but everything in our case is.
I know, it's an interesting time, isn't it? But, when it's your business, which it is for you, you just got to deal with that, and it's workable.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about one of the questions that you had on the sheet for me that I thought was a really good question. Number 3. Yeah, because I did a whole analysis of the numbers, and I think it would be really great to break that down. Yeah, because I think it was about why did you choose to rent vest?
Yes.
Yeah. So I broke the numbers down because this is what I went through when I had to make that decision to rent vest. So you'll be able to follow this. So we'll see how we go and see if anyone listening can follow it as well. But this is why we rent vested. All right. So I'm using an example of a $2 million property. Now, if you had a deposit of $500,000 on that property, you'd have a mortgage of $1.5 million. Now, the stamp duty on that would be over $100,000. But that's in Victoria. So I'm using the example of a stamp duty of $75,000. So if you then have a mortgage of 1.575 and you have a interest rate of 2.47%, over 30 years, that comes down to $1,432 a week. Now, of that $1,432 a week, the interest on that repayment is $748. You following?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Now, with that $748, you can actually get a similar house on a rental for the same amount. So potentially up to a $2 million house for around $750 a week, depending, give or take. So you can actually trade the interest, which is dead money, for rent. Now, what that means is that you've got your $500,000 in equity back, and you've also got the $684 that was for principal payment on your mortgage back as well. Right, or cancelled out. So you've got the potential for a $1.5 million loan plus your equity. And you can invest that money into 2 properties. So let's say you buy 2 properties at $1 million each. You use $200,000 in your deposit and your $50,000 in your stamp duty. And you've got 2 properties, $1 million each. You're tax deducting all the interest and all the expenses on those properties, and you're building equity over 2 different locations. The alternative is you can buy 2, in our case, we would actually do it differently. We'd probably buy 2 investment properties at around $800, have a reno budget, renovate them, build the equity, and have less of a mortgage. And so we can save up to get a 3rd property. So those are the 2 options. You can pay your $748 in interest, or you can pay your $748 a week in rent. But it's how are you going to make your equity work for you? What's the better option?
Okay, I see why you've gone the way you've gone.
Yes. So it's not for everybody, because living in your own home is a very emotional decision. So I get that, totally get that. But these are the 2 options that people face. And for us, it's just made a lot more. We're at the wealth building stage of our lives. We've got about 15 years to go hard or go home. And that's why we decided to just go for it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I thought it was important just to bring that up and point that out.
So I'm wondering whether we could put that calculation in a document, because I think that'd be, or that might be construed as financial advice. Maybe maybe we'll just talk about it. I would quite happily do it, because I think about how much money that we have in a home, but there is no way in a month of Sundays my husband would.
Yeah, but look, the other thing is, because what the other option is that you can buy your own home, renovate it, and move every couple of years if that's what you want to do, because then you don't have your capital gains tax.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can keep.
Yeah, so there's so many ways to get to where you want to go. Yeah, so our way has always been to have a line of credit against the property and then just use that for our project. So it does depend on your own personal circumstances, and that's why a personal plan is really, really important, because your situation is different to my situation, which is different to someone else's, and you've got to find the thing that works best for you. And I think what's been really, like, I always worry when someone says they're going to sell their house to do projects, because once upon a time I came across a woman who sold her home in Bayside in Melbourne to invest. At some point in time, she decided they weren't getting ahead quick enough. She broke it up and she bought all sorts of properties mainly across Queensland. Melbourne absolutely skyrocketed. These other ones did nothing for about a decade. And she was regretting, because she said she was at that stage where she knew she could never get back into a PPOR anymore. But you've stayed in the market and you're growing your portfolio in good areas. So, yeah.
Yeah. Was this the late 80s?
No. Well, it was when we had the charity project, and it was actually, we had it on Airbnb after we'd finished, and someone actually came and stayed in the Airbnb, and she said, "Oh, you're from the School of Renovating." And then she started telling me this story. I'm like, oh, God, I would have preferred if I didn't hear it. Terrible.
Yeah, but that's a classic case of if you can avoid it, not investing in a market you don't know about.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot of spruikers that push, or have done in the past, pushed properties in Queensland, and not necessarily just Queensland, and it's not really been to the benefit of the buyer. Anyhow, we won't get on to little...
Oh, those spruikers are still out there.
Oh, no. God, so frustrating. Anyhow, I won't go into that. So what's your next step?
Okay, so I'm going to contradict myself just a little bit, okay?
That's okay.
But
I do it all the time, so you're allowed one or two.
The next step is we're actually doing a building inspection as we speak. So our plan now is we are set on a certain high school for my daughter next year, and that area is heavily zoned, but it's also in a very expensive area in the inner east of Melbourne. So what we're actually doing is hopefully going to purchase this property. We'll see how we go. But we are going to bid on a property that has reno potential that we can increase equity in. And it's going to probably live in it for at least a year anyway, but that will get my daughter into the school. So after that point, we can do what we want with the house. It depends how we feel at the time. But the beauty of that, as I mentioned earlier, is that we avoid the capital gains tax. So we get her into the school, we avoid the capital gains tax, and then we have the freedom to figure out what we do after that. So that's the next step.
So you'll be buying, presumably, if you're successful, you buy a principal place of residence, and you're buying something that you can add value
in the smart way.
Yeah. That's brilliant. And if you're buying a doer-upper, generally you should be able to improve the value by at least 30 to 40%. And so it's an incredible tool for building your asset base.
Yeah, because we've sold the beach house now, we need to actually hold something. So our holds were a safety beach and the Kyneton house. But if we're getting rid of the beach house, we need something else to hold. So we just thought we'll get this place, we'll live in it for a while, and then we'll either move out of it and hold it or stay there. It depends on how we feel after a year. But the main priority is we get our daughter into that school.
Awesome. And I'm hoping that people listening will get the sense that renovating is a moving feast, and it's something that you can use to solve problems in life. And if you've listened to what Lucy's been talking about in their path from when they first got their first home, there's been a progression and the end result of that progression will be that they have built sufficient wealth to be able to have the life that they want in retirement. And by the time they get to retirement, they will also have a principal place of residence. I feel sure of that. But Lucy and Daz will be, So I just want to congratulate you for really taking on, believing in yourself and creating a goal and going for it, and being willing to flex along the way and move with the changes in the environment, and just being such an extraordinary, spark of creativity and joy in our community. And I think we think you're pretty amazing, and we just love what you're doing. If you want to meet up with a group of savvy renovating, I shouldn't say it's all women because it's not, savvy renovators, I'll say, come over and join She Renovates. It's completely free Facebook group and it is growing at the rate of knots. We hit 1,000 members just recently and now it seems to have picked up momentum. And so they are all savvy renovating women and men that are working their little hearts out to live a better life through renovating. Join if you're not already a member, and then ask, comment, and do whatever you would like to do in order to further your renovation journey. And that's it for me today, so I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me for this replay. If you're ready to start renovating, subscribe and share this episode. Hoping you have a great break and see you in the next episode.